Hello and welcome to our first ever image critique for studio photography workshops. Seems weird to be doing the first ever critique as a December critique, but hey ho, that's where we're going with this. Now, I asked a load of our members on our Facebook page to send in some images from workshops that they have taken for critique, for advice. And the whole idea with this video is that we are looking to take that next step. We're looking to learn and see what that next thing we can do to improve our imagery is. Now, I'm not specifically looking for anything in camera, in processing or whatever. I'm just going to see where the image takes me and give an honest critique. And with a couple of images where need be, we might go on and do a correction in a separate video where seeing how we would potentially correct that image to take it to its best potential. The main thing that we're aiming to do here is take your images to the top potential, get them to where they're going to be at their best, and make sure that we're training our eye to produce the best images that we can. Now, before we start, one thing I do want to say is it is always difficult when you're producing images at a workshop, at an event where you've got other photographers, especially if you come to events where there's a large amount of photographers. Individual workshops, there's normally a lot less. But when you've got larger groups of photographers and you're trying to take some pictures, it's very difficult to take control in a crowd. It can also be very difficult to be unique and take something different, but it's possible. And that's something that we always look for, is people who, if you do present the same photographer, if we do present a load of photographers with the same model, even if they're all professionals and they're all in the same studio, every single one of those photographers should produce a completely different image, because it's their eye, it's their craftsmanship, it's what they're choosing to do with the model, with the styling, with the lighting, with the composition, with all those elements, and how they're looking at creating an image from what they can see. So I never see it as a weakness. I actually see it as a challenge to stand out when you've got other photographers who might have images from the same shoot. I think it's quite a good thing. And there's always tips and tricks that you guys can do to make sure that no one can steal your images and take it themselves. But I'm never worried. I'll set up loads of sets. I'll set up loads of things. And the amount of times at workshops people come over and go, oh, can I take that shot? Be my guest, because you can use everything that I just set up and you're still not going to get the exact same shot as me, because the difference, you don't have me and I can't take the same pictures as you. And that's the beauty of photography. That's why I love the creativity of what we can create, because it's just amazing to see the different thought processes that goes behind each image. So without delaying any further, moving on, we're going to go through each image and just talk about different aspects, different things. And I do know who shot each image, but I don't necessarily remember because I don't have the names in front of me. So no reference to any person, any of the authors specifically through these regardless. So let's have a look at our first image. Okay, so I remember this from one of our fantasy nights. So I believe we had a black swan aesthetic going on for this evening, and we had lots of different coloured gels, and the light setups moved a lot, which is great, which is what I want people to do. However, it can always leave the sets in different places when you come to play. So looking at this image, the very first thing that strikes me is the hotspot sort of on the neck. The hotspot down here I find can be a little bit distracting, and we might want to be toning that down a little bit. Now, toning the light down would have surely done it. However, I do know that on this particular day we were aiming at getting flares, so that light needed to be a little bit more towards the camera and less hitting that subject, just to stop that light being overpowering. The next thing would be our composition. We have more space on the side where she is looking, which is great. That is what we want. However, there's a lot of space behind her that's not really adding to the story. It's not contributing anything particularly. And we could do with a little bit more space, bringing her eyes, maybe the bridge of her nose onto the third, a little bit more for this image would just give her a little bit more powerful. Now the eyes are positioned right because you always want the eyes looking to the top corner where they're looking up, and they actually are in the right place. I just think we could maybe shuffle her across a little bit more and just strengthen that image, and maybe give her a little bit more room to breathe on the side with the elbow. There's a very close to the edge there. A little bit of room to breathe would really create a bit of atmosphere within that image. But overall, it's a very attractive image. She's looking the right way. She's got a lovely expression, and the hand is beautiful. It's very elegant. Beauty when you work with a dancer is they are very good with their hands usually, but it's no excuse because a photographer, it's us that can see the angle. So that's really well executed from that point of view, and it's a beautiful fantasy image. Let's move on. Well, there's a familiar face. So I know Steve loves jumping in and modelling. He always gets roped in when we do these portrait events. Now, overall, I love it. I'm unbiased, but I overall do. I love this picture. I do like the image. I love the intensity in the stare. The catch lights in the eyes are really good. We've ever so slightly got the nose overlapping the cheek. You do want to avoid that when you're in a portrait sort of scene, although classically it is forgiven more in male portraits than it is in female portraits. But here, I would say you want just that head tilted back towards us, just the tiniest amount. But the expression is perfect and the lighting is appropriate for the subject, it is appropriate for the expression, and the composition is absolutely lovely too. There's enough space, he's just over to the side. The light is quite central, but you've got enough negative space for him to be looking into. It's adding to the mood. And we've got just enough sleeve coming in on that hand to connect it. Because if you cropped that any higher, it could be anyone's hand coming through. So it's nice to see that little bit of sleeve that just connects it. But overall, I think that's a really strong image. I really like it. Now, obviously, you had the best model for this particular one. Of course, this is me. I have absolutely no idea or recollection of when this was anymore. But I remember being handed a glass and being saying, "Can you hold a glass?" Yes, why not? So I do remember bits of this happening. Now, it's a similar lighting, if not the same lighting as the previous image, but notice how the nose isn't overlapping the cheek, how we don't have that extra bump coming out. And now we actually just notice the face looking slightly off to the side. That works perfectly. There's lovely detail in the shadows. The glass is actually adding something. The expression is good, even if it is my own. Again, the composition is really nicely. I want to maybe see a little bit more detail in the stool underneath. However, looking at this, it might be that this screen's gone a bit contrasty with it. I think that works, and I think it's looking really nice. The hand placement on the glass, we could maybe have put the hand a little bit more underneath to give a slightly more elegant wrist. But overall, I think that's a really lovely image. And I like the finish on the colour. I think the finish is really nice. So this was from a recent beauty workshop, and it is the lovely Lily, who is always a crowd favourite with models, with our modelling. She's an amazing model. She's really fantastic to work with. She takes direction well. And she was fantastic on this day. So looking at this shot, I love it because I love drama. I love black and whites. I love images like this. I would say if we were going to critique, there's a few things to pick up on. So firstly, we've got that, I call it eye squiggles, eye veins, I don't know. We've got that eye squiggle in the eye, and that's one of the first things I think a lot of people would mention. I'm not actually against it. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not against it. This isn't designed, or it's not being portrayed as a classical beauty image, in which case that would be distracting. It actually, I think, could be adding to the drama of the image. So I have no problem keeping that if that was the author's intention, to draw attention to the eye. However, it wouldn't hurt from it going either. The bit that's distracting me a little bit more is the other eye. We've got a little bit of catch light, but we either need to see a little bit more or a little bit less, because it's just kind of distracting us a tiny bit. And the other eye is so beautiful that the catch light being lower on the other one, it just sort of is throwing it off balance ever so slightly. However, that it looks really good. I think that's looking really, really nice. Now, I appreciate and I really, really like the composition that's been done here. I think it's a really nice composition. Personally, I would have given it a little bit more room on the left into the darkness, and possibly even more room, leaving the amount of face lit that we have, but more darkness on the top and the right, so that she's looking into the space, into the abyss, and there's even more, probably more drama, more mood, just created from negative space. I would put that as personal preference. I think that is personal preference, really. Yeah, it's a type of composition I enjoy, but I also love an extreme close-up like this. Now, I remember this one again. This was my Halloween shoot where I stupidly dressed as Wednesday Addams for the theme of the Halloween, and ended up in sets and modelling, which was fun. It's always fun. I have no problem being thrown into different sets and doing different things. Now, I'm actually, hands up, I am not usually a fan of the overly faded look on images, but if there was any theme where that was appropriate, this is it. This is a perfect one to fade and lift the shadows, create a sort of old worldy kind of vintage look to the images. And I think it's perfect. The styling of the set, I created the set to create some sort of mood, and it has worked. We had a dramatic light coming from one side. If I remember rightly, we didn't move the light too much during the whole evening, but having that light from one side, I was posed and told to sit in the right place, head to the right space. Now, the only thing I would say that we could add is maybe potentially a lower composition, a lower angle, to add that regalness into it, because you've got quite a regal pose there. The head could go up, could be looking, the chin could face towards the light with the eyes looking down, slightly judgmental, and create more character, because this is a character kind of shot. So I think, yeah, making that character come alive, adding something in there would be quite good too. But I love the colours. I think the tealy bluey kind of tones with the oranges work perfectly, and it looks like a really good shot. So I love that. So following on from that, I did see this picture when this picture became up on our Facebook page, and do you know what? I love it. I love it when someone does actually think outside the box and do something that others hadn't thought to do. The idea of taking a picture that didn't have my face in it, I think was a really good idea, and it worked. The mood of it really worked. I think everything to it was really good there. Now, the only thing I'd say is a little bit distracting is the orb, the crystal ball sat on the bench behind. If that had maybe been sat on the books and a little bit more out of focus, I think it would have been less distracting for the whole shot. But overall, I do love it. And from a styling, annoying, it's, you had no control of this, but it would have been great if the pumpkin had had leaves and things coming off of it, just to give a bit more of a real vibe. But there was nothing you could do. You didn't know you were going to take this shot. I know the whole situation, but a little bit of green in there would have lifted it a bit. But I really enjoy this image. I actually kind of like the chaos of the background to a degree. It does work. Cool. So on this image, this is actually one favourite part of my studio because of this wall. I hand painted the stone effect painstakingly. It took me ages to work out how to do it, and I absolutely love it. So this is one of my favourite sets. I would have probably suggested here using a cooler white balance, because she's very warm toned, very tanned, and it suits the shades, but it's not really complementing the rest of the image. You've got her wearing blue on purple, grey background, tan skin, yellow tinge to the hair. There's a lot of colours going on. if you can simplify that by matching your colors. So by pulling the white balance down, the purple of the sofa would go more of a cool purple, the blue would be complemented, the grey would be complemented, and the skin colour wouldn't stand out quite as much. It would neutralise those tones just a little bit. You could also do this with the saturation or the vibrance, pulling that down just to balance the tones. But I think that's the first thing this image needs to take it to that next level. I think her expression is lovely. I think the hand in front maybe looks a bit awkward, so maybe that could have rested down a little bit further. We've got a few highlights just on that wrist. But yeah, overall, her eyes are connecting with us. The expression is lovely. And I think the colouring's your first step. Once you've got the colouring, playing around with a few other bits. I think this will be one I bring into Photoshop and do a separate video on, showing what the potential could be. Because sometimes you just need someone else to see it. It's something we do in our studio all the time, is other people jump on other people's images and go, oh my God, how did I miss that was annoying, or this did this, and elevating things to the next level. So this was from our recent beauty workshop, and the author of this image already knows that I love it. I love the texture, I love the effect, I love the edit, I love the catch lights in the eyes, I love everything about it. It's very true to this author, it's very, very true to them. If I had anything to add whatsoever, it was that I'd maybe bring a bit off the top, or not have her so low in the frame. She looks a bit, I mean, maybe it's where you want it, but she looks a bit vulnerable because you're kind of looking down at her. So lifting her in that frame would make her look a little bit more powerful. But I love this picture. This is my sort of thing entirely. And it's that borderline beauty, but not beauty shot, where the image is gorgeous, but it still has reality and grit, and it still has a lot going for it that's real. So from one of our dance workshops we were doing, I always end up teaching hair flicks. We love a good hair flick. So with the hair flick here, we've got a few little things that we could maybe tweak just to take it to the next level. Firstly, crop above, probably around the elbow, but just at least above the hands, definitely above the hands. The legs are not adding anything. They're not in shot. They're not contributing. The box is not contributing. The floor is cutting right through the middle of her. All of that is distracting. Your key focus for this image is the hair. So let's make sure we look at the hair and we're not drawn to anything else. So crop that right in. Secondly, the spotlight on the back wall should be a little bit more central behind her head. It's difficult to do that. It's even more difficult when you're taking shots around other people. Absolutely granted on that. But that halo should be sort of more central, coming in behind her. I love the colouring because the teal with the red is really, really nice. You'll find if you tone the red down ever so slightly, somehow the image elevates. It looks classy. It has a bit of a oomph to it. And so I always tone it down just in the saturation of my reds ever so slightly from there. But she looks amazing. The light on the face is a good capture. It's on the right side for her as she's flicking around. So that is perfect. And I think just you'd have so much more impact as a nice tight crop coming in from there. So this one came in cropped like this, and I have a feeling that's not the intention. I'm assuming there was more to the image and it got cropped on the upload on Facebook or for a reason. I'm assuming it maybe wasn't there. However, this is what I was presented with. So I will dismiss the crop, and I won't do too much with this image for that reason. Overall, the posing is very, very nice. I think the colour might be a tad on the green side and a bit contrasty. We could have maybe softened it down a tiny bit. And if the crop was intentional, we needed to come right up to the knee and have a little bit more head in it. Or less, actually. Cropping from the nose down and just having the mouth can be quite powerful. I used to do it a lot, and it can be really, really effective. So I love this. This reminds me of a really nice moody teen portrait, and a good moody black and white teen portrait is always something that is quite good. I think it's always got a lot of impact. Her collarbone looks amazing. Her expression is actually really good. The first thing I would say to tweak is just bring her eyes back towards us a little bit. We've got so much in the whites of the eyes. It's not adding to the expression, it's slightly losing the expression. If her eyes were looking just a little bit more towards us, we would have that little bit of a more ugh kind of attitude. And I feel like you bring that character alive. The shoulders are in that kind of slumped position, but they're still tense. Her neck still looks elegant. She's got lovely collarbones. Everything else about that image is really quite nice. It's in the right place. And the lighting's coming from the right side. I think everything's nice there. I think it's just those eyes to start bringing that back and elevate that expression before you start looking at other areas. So that was our first ever image critique for December. I didn't talk for an hour, so that's impressive. I know some of you will be very surprised by that. I did think I might go on and on for a long time. However, I will be doing some more videos to go up on Studio Photography Workshops.co.uk to put out the corrections and to put out how we're going to correct it, what we would do, and look at some different processing options for some of these images. I look forward to the next image critique next month, and down the line I hope we can take it to an area where we can maybe critique from each workshop we do, or even just do categories, have a portrait category, have a still life category, and I'm not going to be the only one doing the critiques. Myself, we'll have Steve, and hopefully some other guest critiquers over time as well, to make sure we get a good varied opinion from professionals who understand image judging, they understand image critique, and they have experienced background in developing images, and it's not all just about personal preference. But as you've heard from me, I will always voice when it is my personal preference over what would be the industry norm. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to me, if you're still listening to me. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.